Hope everyone is having a wonderful Halloween today. It is Thursday, October 31st, and I'm Clint Lambert. I am the host today of Village in Motion, and I have in the studio with me two very important people in the sense that they are the ones in charge of the Dining Services Committee. I have Betty Griffin, who is the liaison to Dining Services, and I have Susan Gerhard, who is the chair of Dining Services Committee for Green Spring, and we're just very pleased to have both of you here with us this morning.
Good morning. I just realized we have a problem. Nobody brought the candy corn.
That's right. You know,
I've gotten through this season without candy corn.
Well, I saw the thing this morning on TV before I came, talking about all the different kind of candies that are out there, and it's just amazing how candy has changed over time, but yet we still have the things like candy corn.
That's right. Candy corn will never go away.
That's right. Good. Well, hopefully dining services will never go away either.
I don't think so.
Good. Well, Betty, it is so good to see you this morning.
Thank you.
And you are the chair of the liaison of Dining Services.
That's correct.
And you have been with the council for
7 years.
7 years. Wow, time flies.
It does when you're having fun.
Yeah. What's the reason for having a committee that's based on the council's philosophy for dining services?
Well, dining services is everybody's favorite thing. When you can't talk about anything else, you can talk about the food. Mm-hmm. Either you like it, or you don't like it, or you'd like to change it, or you like the way it is. Everybody loves food,
right.
And we try to please everybody, but it's very difficult to please 1,700 people, all with different tastes. And of course, now we have the vegans and the vegetarians.
And the gluten-free.
And gluten-free, yes.
All of these groups of people who have their own thing, and that's fine. We like it that way, but we do try to accommodate everybody with their tastes. Mm-hmm. And we have our 3 dining rooms with 3 wonderful managers, and we have subcommittees for each dining room. Okay. And the subcommittee does a lot of work. We read all the comment cards, and I read the comment cards from all 3 dining rooms. It's about 600 a month. The subcommittees read them, discuss them, and pass on to the managers and the chef what people want, don't want, what they're complaining about. And strangely enough, there are some that are the same every month. Mm-hmm. Not strange, I guess, it's people. But most of the time, we get new comments, new thoughts, new suggestions for repeat foods, and it's a really great thing to do. We also have the individual town halls for each dining area, dining venue, and they are well attended. People are asking questions, and they're giving good information. They are giving good information. It's a wonderful thing to do.
Okay, and so all of that is under the auspices of the resident council. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and so the purpose then of the Dining Services Committee is
to make people happy.
Okay.
Actually, I have a list of our goals here.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, and they are, Susan.
Okay, let me read through these. The first one is to serve as a two-way communications highway linking Green Spring residents and Green Spring Dining Services personnel, and with the town halls and with both the big Dining Services Committee meeting and the subcommittee meetings, we do a lot of that communicating. Right. It's very important. The second one is for venue-specific subcommittees, and we have a subcommittee for the Fireside and the Cafe, one for the Bistro and the Jefferson, and one for Woodland Skies. Okay. For those 3 subcommittees, their goal is to meet monthly with their respective restaurant management / chef teams to discuss potential resolution of concerns documented on resident comment cards. Okay. Subcommittee members have a further goal, and this is really the most important key, of serving as ambassadors and information communicators as they interact with all Green Spring residents on any of our committees here. Each one of us is here representing hundreds of people.
All right. That's right.
So that's really the key. The third one is to partner with Green Spring Dining Services Management to further enhance the Green Spring dining operation, including menu offerings, nutrition information, services, and product offerings in the stores. And in this one, in parentheses, we have including ensuring all items in the stores show individual prices.
Okay. And so what you're saying in every one of those is the fact of really representing the residents.
That's exactly right.
And the residents' desires and concerns in regards to dining.
That's exactly right.
So therefore, the purpose is to represent all of us.
Right.
So that we are nourished and we receive the foods that we desire to have,
Not necessarily desire.
Well, no, we desire, but they are able, aren't they, to meet some of those desires, and they're able not to meet some of those desires, and maybe not as often as we want them. But they
I
work.
think that the real key is, and hearing, and you notice that we didn't use the word complaint any place in the goals.
Exactly.
That when people express their concern about what's being served to them, you have to look at the bigger picture, and you have to say, what's the cultural background of this? Let's say we're serving chili. Chili where I come from is probably very different from chili where you come from, or very different from where you come from.
We're all from the Midwest. It's probably the same.
Well, but my point is that there are many, many different chili recipes in the world. And what one person says, this is what real chili is, another person will say, well, there are beans in this chili. You don't put beans in chili. Why don't they know that?
Yeah, and that's one of the nice things about having the menu bank.
10,000 recipes.
Is it 10,000 recipes they have?
It's a huge number.
Yeah, and so it's always amazing to me, is just like you said, the different things that you get out of something you think you know what it is.
Well, meatloaf here is a good example. They're Millie's meatloaf and old-fashioned meatloaf.
Aunt Millie's meatloaf.
And there's Aunt Millie's meatloaf. There's one venue that they love, one of those two, I don't know which is which, and another venue, they never want to see that. They want this recipe.
Exactly. And some people, like gravy on their meatloaf. Some people, like ketchup. I mean, it just depends in regards to it. The same thing with the ribs. In regards to dry rubs, or wet, or whatever. In regards to it. But what I'm hearing you say over and over again is the committee really works to get information.
Yes.
And to share with dining services personnel.
And that getting information part is twofold. One is the comment cards, which we always encourage people to, if you have a concern, if you want to say something, if you want to communicate, this is one way to do it, and please always do that. But the second piece, and we've been encouraging this a lot this past year, is to encourage people to, if you have a concern, if whatever's in front of you right now is not exactly the way you would like it, talk to a manager.
Right, exactly.
And that's been a huge challenge.
Yes. Well, typically it seems as if those of us that live here are resistive or are shy about speaking. Except for some people.
That would not be Betty.
Or you.
But speaking to the managers, that it's almost like we're saying, they've done the best they can, or but they want feedback, don't they?
They want feedback, and it's. I know one time we were eating in the fireside, and we tasted something was like, this is not right. And the chef happened to be in the room right then. We pulled him over, and he tasted it, and he went over and pulled it off the line. Yep. Sometimes something isn't quite right, and they don't know it. If we don't tell them, they can't fix it.
Exactly. That happened last night to me, my wife and I, just last night, and it happened to be at Woodland last night, and the pork ossobuco
was not cooked right.
Was not coming off the bone readily.
Oh, okay.
And so I grabbed asked a manager to come over. He came over, he looked at it, and I said, "There's three of us sitting here, and it's just not doing right." He said, "Let me go," and he immediately left, went back to the chef, and he came back to me and he said, "Both the chef and the sous chef know about it now."
Good.
And so it's,
our table had the same experience. There were three of us, and we couldn't cut it off the bones.
And what did you do in response?
Call the manager.
Good for you.
Of course.
Good for you.
But if we don't tell them, they never know.
That's right.
And I can't imagine it just suddenly happened when we were there.
Of course not.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that people are reluctant to talk to a manager. Right. And I've heard the word, well, they'll just get my number and they'll never serve me good food again. Some kind of imagined retaliation. And our third goal here, to partner with dining services management, and you will hear them use the term one team. I look at our committee as being part of that team, that we're helping them.
Yeah. And the thing about the committee, Betty, did you select the members who are on the committee, or how?
No, they were selected by the president.
Okay. And so people let the president of the council know they want to be on the committee. Is that right?
Coming up, starting tomorrow, the resident self-nomination forms for committees will be in our cubbies.
Okay.
And every resident is encouraged to become a member of a committee. We have about 100, 110 every year, good solid volunteers. But we need more. We always need more. Dining services is a large committee. General services is large. Medical center is large. General resident life is large. Those are the large committees. The rest of them kind of fight for people to get on them. But we do need people to run our committees.
Yeah.
And with that, the excuse me, the people select their own committees, and they're given 3 choices. They don't always get their first choice. In fact, as you know, they seldom get their first. So they usually get first or second choice.
Right.
Very few of them get their third choice. And that will be in the Cubbies tomorrow, so we encourage everybody to sign up for it.
And that's tomorrow, November the 1st. They'll be in the Cubbies.
That is correct.
In regards to it. But if people do not submit their name and do not volunteer, then they don't get on a committee.
That's correct.
Not
That's as I
quite
understand
correct.
it.
Right.
They can.
Okay.
We get volunteers during the year. We
Okay.
have new people moving in. I was a good example of that. I moved in March.
Right.
I wanted to be on a committee. I volunteered, and I was.
Yes.
Good.
And you went on the council the next year.
That's right. Thank you, Clint.
And on our dining services committee, if somebody would ask to join the committee at this point, we'd probably say, sorry, all of our seats are taken because the room that we meet
Right,
in,
right.
we have filled it and our committees are, our subcommittees are full.
And that's what's happened over time is
Yes.
that certain committees no longer can accept anybody
Right.
because of the size of the space.
That's the one thing I'd like for us to really stress here is the importance of if you join a committee, being on a committee doesn't mean sitting in a chair and listening to
That's
other
right.
people talk.
Exactly.
That you need to
Workers.
come in being prepared to put your hand up, to go out. And on our committee, people would say, well, there's nothing to do. And I go back to this line that says serve as ambassadors and information communicators.
Right, exactly.
Many times in our big meeting, which is always attended by usually Jason, the head of dining services at the moment, and our chief chef, Michael Ritt, and
Executive chef.
executive chef. Chief chef sounded good though, didn't it? Executive chef Michael Ritt, and one of our registered dietitians.
Okay. And we have 2 of those, don't we?
We have 2 of those, yes.
Okay. And
Two full-time.
they always come to the meetings,
They
right?
always come to our meetings. Mary Smith has come to our meeting. Mary is a very, very fine educator, and she does a little lesson each time.
Wonderful.
She
So-
talked to us about grapefruit last time.
Yes.
Nice. Both the pros and the cons, right?
Exactly.
Well, the pros and the cons, and with the basic question being, why doesn't Green Spring serve grapefruit? And she gave us
Yep.
all the medical reasoning for it, but we have learned about salt, we've talked about water, we've talked about different kinds of bread, we've had a variety of things, little educational tidbits, but the point also being for the people on the committee to take that out and
Yes.
take some action with other people. And I think that's, as a committee chair, that's the hardest thing for me to get through to people, that it's not about you.
right.
Has nothing to do with you, maybe this much about you. The point is to help other people understand what's
Exactly.
going on.
Yeah. And that's the entire point. And too often do people want to be on the council who have one thing
Yes.
that they want to deal with.
Yes.
And we need to have people that really look at the broad picture.
Right.
In
Yeah, we
regards-
so often have people coming in that
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
I was on a committee, and back when I was working many years ago, they had a committee that there were many committees looking at many issues at that point, and I was on a committee that had to do with temporary duty travel. And there was one guy that came in to the committee. He had one question. Once he got the answer to that question, we never saw him again.
Exactly. And that's not the kind of person that you really want on a
No,
committee.
we want people who are ready to do so. We had an example a few months ago. We put some big banners up in all of our venues and a place for people to sign and say thank you to the dining services staff. And I had 2 lovely ladies who volunteered to help me with that, but there should have been more.
Yes, right.
You know, it's
Exactly.
just not that hard.
Yes, you're saying thank you to people in regards to it. And dining services is always the ones that wind up saying thank you to everybody, the different committees, the different organizations, the different individuals who've accomplished something. It always seems like it gets turned over to dining services to prepare something for everybody.
You're
Speaking
right.
of preparing,
Yeah.
we've got 2 big events coming up this next month.
Oh, okay.
We've got the Talk of the Town, which is when everybody gets dressed up and we have a fancy meal. It will not be like last year's 20th anniversary,
Okay.
where we had the rotating meals. It will be very nice, very lovely, good food, and dress up and enjoy it.
Okay, you're saying this is top of the town.
Talk of the town.
Talk of the town. And when will that
Night
be?
on the Town.
Okay.
Night on
No,
the Town.
that's right.
Not on the town. And when will that be?
It's roughly the 20th. I don't know exactly the
20th
date.
of?
November.
Okay, are you not confusing that with the dinner with the chef?
I am not.
Yeah, they're 2 different
Oh,
events.
okay. All right.
The evening with the chefs is a served meal that is just
Extra money.
a small number of people, and there is an extra charge for
Right.
it, and it's something one has to sign up for.
Okay.
The Night on the Town is a different event, and the only thing that I would say is let's not scare people off by saying you have to dress up.
Don't have to, but it sure is fun if you do.
Well, it's fun if you have the clothes to do it.
Right.
But I don't want people staying home because they don't feel like they have something fancy to wear.
They don't. And it is a special meal. And then, of course, we have Thanksgiving coming up.
Right.
And they've done something again this year that was good 2 or 3 years ago. Parties of 8, they've asked you to make your reservations early, 8 or more,
Yeah.
which I think is really good. They've done it in the Hunters Crossing area. I don't know where they're going to do it this year, probably Hunters Crossing again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good idea.
Yeah.
I would like to give a plug for our dining services team. When you mentioned Thanksgiving, it made me think of it. A lot of people don't know that our dining services team does a lot behind the scenes that we never
Yes.
see. One thing being that they fix a Thanksgiving meal and a Christmas meal and take it to our local firehouse and I
Right.
believe police department.
I'm not sure about the
Yeah.
police. I know the fire.
I think,
Yeah.
but the point is that we have a wonderful group of people that
Right.
are doing things behind the scenes, reaching out into the community. The other piece is that this past week, our dining services leadership went to Edison High School. Now, if you know Edison High School, which is not far from here, it has a lot of vocational programs.
Right.
And they have a culinary arts program. We are trying to team with them
Oh, wonderful.
to have interns from their program to come here to be a part of their training program, with the real goal, of course, being
New employees.
those people could come
Right.
and work here.
Well, over the years, over the last 11 plus years I've been here, we've had different students come here from Edison and work as servers, and they have been absolutely superb.
This is a whole different
Yeah,
level.
so this is a different level in
This
regards
is
to
working in the kitchens.
Yeah, but Edison is, for those people that don't know, it's down off of Franconia.
Yeah, Franconia and Van Dorn.
Yes, that's where it is.
Yeah.
In regards to it, but there are some excellent individuals there, and it'd be wonderful to be
Yeah.
able to get some of them to come
Well,
and work here.
and when they went, the head of our Human Resources Department, our people were talking with the culinary arts people, but at the same time, the head of our Human Resources Department was saying, not only dining services, you teach, I think, an HVAC program there.
Yeah, right.
And some of the other
Yes,
programs
yes.
that are mirrored here on our campus.
right.
So that would be another way to interest some of these
Tremendous.
students in
That'd be
coming here to
great.
work.
That would be absolutely
So
great.
I'm always amazed by all the things our dining
Right.
services team is doing that aren't just about putting the food
Right.
in front of us. They're really reaching out into the community.
Yeah. And I think we need to thank the dining services team with all the construction we've had and the rearrangement of
They've done a
dining
wonderful
rooms
job.
and cooking venues and everything. They have really gone over and above.
Yes.
All of them have.
Fireside has done an especially good job. Corey is wonderful. Corey manages that takeout situation, and everybody loves it. They're wondering what's going to happen when we get the cafe back.
No, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Well, in fact, I remember someone saying that they liked it so much they were hoping they would be incorporated
Right.
in the design of keeping that kind of a setting.
Unfortunately, that room, if you remember
it's
the
going.
boards when we saw them, it will look completely
Right.
different. It's a little hard for people to visualize, but nobody's going to go hungry.
No.
Jason told me a couple of months ago that, of course, they watch very carefully how many individual residents eat. And we have some residents who never have eaten in our dining
Right.
rooms.
Right.
But in the last year, we've had an uptick in
Oh,
that number of a rather large percentage more people who have lived here for many years who all of a sudden are saying, oh, these dining rooms are here,
Yeah.
and they cook, and I don't have to cook. For whatever reasons, people haven't come to eat here.
Right.
More and more are.
That's great, because I know some people that were here when we came who only ate in one venue, never ate in any of the other venues. I've noticed over the last year, they now are venturing out and eating in the other venues. And it's kind of like, you folks, you waited for over 10 years, I know, before you ventured out.
And they never went to any place else
Never
to
went to
eat.
any place
Isn't
else
that
to eat.
interesting?
And so,
Clinton, you were a good example of that, because when you were the liaison for dining services, you went to every dining room once a month.
Yes.
And you did a very good job of that.
thank you. Actually, it was once a week.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. Just a little history here on the side, and Betty knows some of it, is that my first committee was dining services, and I was the chair immediately when I went on dining services. The liaison said, "You're going to be the chair."
Wasn't I?
That was it.
And I decided if I was going to do that, I was going to find out what was going on in each dining room. And so my wife agreed with me, and each week we went to every venue.
That was a good idea.
And ate in every venue.
This is why I go to all of these subcommittee meetings. I want to know what's going on in each dining room.
Right.
But I followed Clint in dining services.
Yes, you did.
He was a hard act to follow.
Thank you. But you did a good job.
But I will have to say that and we don't do that. We are fireside cafe people because my husband likes to eat in a hurry, and so do I. But this last week we had a reason to come down and eat lunch here in Woodland Skies. And I was so glad I did, because just in that short time there were a couple of pretty major concerns that came up that I was able to later talk with the supervisor on duty at that time. And these are the kinds of things where, as committee members, we need to reach out. And in the case of this one, the young lady who was serving me picked up my glass like this with her fingers around the top of it and filled it with water and put it back down.
Not good.
I had someone with me that we were kind of giving a sales pitch for Greenspring with, so I didn't say anything at the time. But I talked to the manager later, and he said, not the manager, the supervisor at the time, he said, well, we're getting some new training materials coming out, and maybe that will be addressed in that. And this is a perfect example of where we as committee members need to step forward.
Yes.
And I said, no, we are not going to wait until the training materials come out. Please go to that young lady and talk to her that this is not the way.
Exactly.
That is a healthy way to serve water.
Yeah. Because it always bothers me when you see things and no one says anything. You see the same thing again and again because no one's ever given feedback.
That's right.
In regards to it.
Yeah.
And all this line. One of the things I know that you have done is that you have made sure that you've had your subcommittees in each of the dining rooms.
Yes.
What do they actually do?
Well, that's where the real work happens. And Betty mentioned the comment cards. The comment cards first come to me. I read all of them, which takes 3 or 4 hours.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
And immediately after that, I get the cards for the Jefferson, which is usually about 250, and Woodland Skies, which is usually something over 200, and get those to those committee chairs. Then they sit down with their committees, and I don't go to the other committees on purpose because they're adults, they can run their committee. I'm not going to get in their way. But what we do in Fireside is that we have the cards, and I make a list of, I take out the cards that say Susie is the best server ever in the history of the world, please give her a raise. And we have probably 60% of our cards are complimentary for the servers.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
which is really good. So I take those and come out with a list of issues and talk to the other people about them for about a half an hour, and we say, what are we going to discuss with management? And then we have in the Fireside area, Corey is always there, Mark the executive chef is always there, Shannon the sous chef is often there, Willie the lead cook is often there, kind of a mixture of people that come, and we go over these things. In their case, probably 90% of the time, what we bring up, they are well aware of, they're already working on it. But then there are some things that we just sometimes have to keep bringing up over and over. And the example would be in Woodland Skies, there was a point where somebody put the wrong kind of salt in the salt shakers.
And it clogged it up.
Wouldn't come out the holes. You
Yes.
would have thought the world was coming to an end. This went on for a number of weeks. But finally they were able to figure out that they had the right kind of salt, it just wasn't the right kind being put in there. So months passed and all was well in the world of salt.
Exactly.
And recently somebody came up with the same thing again. So that's something to bring up again. Sometimes you just have to keep saying, that's not something to which the residents would be sensitive.
Right, exactly.
Or not the residents, the staff would be sensitive,
exactly.
but the residents are.
Yeah.
And sometimes we bring those up and say, this is what we need to look at.
Yeah, okay, very good. What other kinds of things is the committee doing that you have not mentioned? Is there anything else the committee is involved in with relationships with the residents or with staff?
Our biggest job is to act as ambassadors with other residents.
Okay.
If you meet me in the hall, well, a lady met me in the hall the other day and said, this is my concern, blah, 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 blah. And I said, fine, I'll take that, and gave her an explanation of what was going on to a point, but she was giving me a valid concern.
Okay.
So if we know the answer to things, which the committee will often know before other residents will, say, here's what's happening. Please understand that this is what's going on. And hopefully the person will understand that. I think our biggest problem, going back to where we first started here, is that we have people coming from a variety of cultures, a variety of life situations, and a variety of things going on in their lives. Very often when someone is very upset about whatever's happening in the dining room, it's more about that person and what's happening in their life at
Right.
that moment than it is about what's on the plate in front of them.
And the other thing that we all forget, we forget the fact of our aging process, our taste buds change.
Oh, yes.
And that also with medications, our taste buds change. And so things just don't taste the way they used
And
to.
I think memories don't
Exactly,
remember the way
exactly.
they used to, because to hear a lot of folks say it, in their homes they serve the equivalent of a 5-star meal every night. Nothing ever went wrong. Everything was cooked to perfection.
Right.
And they had filet every night of the week.
Right.
And you know that's not what happens in people's lives. Sometimes they have a toasted cheese sandwich.
Exactly right.
Right.
Well, it is so nice having both of you here, and may all of us have toasted cheese sandwiches and enjoy
Yes, I
them,
love them.
as well as all the other superb food that we get from dining
And
services.
what I can say is to ask people, when you see anyone that works in dining services, say hello, be
Yes.
friendly. You know, we're all on the same team.
Right.
Say hello to them and make them feel like, a lot of them, nobody ever says anything to them.
Yeah.
May I also say that
Sure.
it's very nice when the managers and the executive chef in each dining room come out and table touch, they call
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Yes.
That is
And we
very,
encourage
very
that.
important.
Yeah.
We
And
encourage
it's,
that.
it's really nice of them to do it.
We encourage that, and we encourage dining services management to encourage that,
Right.
because I'll just say some of our managers aren't as comfortable doing that as others.
Right.
And that's what we put into the title of continuing concerns.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, thanks both of you, and we hope you continue with the committee and continue to interact with all of us and let us know what's going on.
Thank you for having us.
That's right.
Thanks.